blessings, all my blessings. All my blessings, all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up.
Well, what a wet fart game 4 of the NBA Finals was. The Celtics look like they don't want to be in Dallas as they take an absolute beating. 122-84 is the final. I did not watch the fourth quarter. Most folks probably didn't. I don't know why you would, quite frankly. Celtics started 1 for 6 from 3. Mavericks' first 10 points came from the paint. Kyrie and Luka all the way there, as it looked like a big night for their stars. After the first TV timeout, or timeout taken, I should say, we had Derek Lively hit a big open corner 3, the first three-pointer of his career, a sign that indicated there might be some extra shots falling for the Mavericks. He followed that up with a big alley-oop play. Mavs, only the fourth alley-oop little dish there of the finals for the Mavs. Fourth one. 3 through the first 3 games after having more than all other teams combined coming into the finals. Kristaps Porzingis, who was available for certain situations, that was the verbiage that was used on the broadcast, did not come in after the first timeout. He did not start, obviously. That was Al Horford again, but he did not come in after the first timeout either. It was Xavier Tillman back in. He could not stop the bleeding. His defense did come along in the back end of Game 3 after initially looking pretty shoddy. Mavs pushed a 10-0 lead out, a 10-0 run out to a 34-21 lead. They had 22 points in the paint at that point, were able again to relentlessly attack. They got everything they wanted. Was the main problem for the Celtics. They got their lobs, they got their corner threes, they got everyone going. Luka and Kyrie were hitting 58% from the field and 3 for 7 from 3 partway through the second quarter. 13 for Luka, 9 for Irving. They were out rebounding the Celtics 16-6. Hard to say this was all a Porzingis problem as the Celtics just looked completely disengaged. The Celtics started the game 2 for 9 from 3. Tatum had 11 of the 21. Brown and Tatum had 11 of the first 21 shot attempts. So again, it looked like a game of the top 2 stars on each teams to start out the game, and didn't get any better for the Celtics. Dante Exum came in and had a quick 5 points to start a partial way through the second quarter, so he got going right away. They did take away one of his corner threes that was open after a timeout, and he hit another one instead. He was out of bounds on the initial. So 39-21 was an 18-point lead, the biggest lead of the series for the Mavs in the second quarter. And it just got worse from there. A few hectic minutes in the middle of the second quarter where neither team seemed like they could really score. And good defense was played on Luka by a couple different guys, rotating between Holiday, Brown, and Horford. And he started to hit a couple shots in a row there. He was fouled by Xavier Tillman and went to the line hitting some free throws. Then he got going with a jumper again and pushed the lead all the way out to 45-25. Overall, it was a 17-4 run over 6 minutes of game time before the Celtics took a timeout there. Kyrie played some awesome defense, drew a charge on Tatum at one point. And Luka and Kyrie, again, scored a bundle of points before Hauser hit a big 3 to stop the bleeding. Only 7 points in 8 minutes. 8 minutes into the second quarter there for the Celtics, and that was the main sticking point. Overall, outscored 27-14 in the second quarter, pushing on what was already a 13-point lead after one. And that was pretty much it. 61-35 was the score at half. 52% shooting for the Mavs. 25 points for Luka and 11 for Mr. Kyrie Irving. Boston was shooting under 30% from the field. They were 5 for 19 from 3. Tatum had 15 points. 29-13 was the rebounding edge for the Dallas Mavericks. Coming out of the half, Daniel Gafford who only played a couple minutes in the first half. Lively was very successful, and Gafford didn't play well, so he was pulled pretty quickly. And he was explosive on both sides of the ball, calling out big defensive plays, making big defensive plays, and running out, getting ahead for a big lob dunk, and making big shots right off the bat. He had a big block on Jason Tatum. That was one of the big highlight plays of the evening, and just played very well on both sides of the ball. Lively himself finished the game with 7 offensive rebounds and a double-double. So both of those guys were very successful. At one point, the Mavs had 42 total points in the paint, and the Celtics had 47 total points. Celtics pulled their starters with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, down 36, I believe, and the fourth quarter was rudimentary at that point. Great help defense by both the bigs, Lively and Gafford, on drives to shut down the Celtics. They shot 20% less in Game 4 than they did on average in Games 1 through 3 on drives. The first loss in 5 weeks for the Celtics, a third biggest win in NBA history. So it looks like we may have something kind of cooking here for the Dallas Mavericks, and not a surefire win on Monday night in Game 5 for the Boston Celtics. Looks like it could get a little bit more interesting. It certainly depends on Kristaps Porzingis' health, of course. Hopefully 2 more full days of rest will give him an opportunity to kind of come back here. Overall, the starters through 3 quarters of play here, we did have Tatum finish with 15 points, but a minus 33 plus minus, 4 for 10 overall. Holiday was 4 for 10, a minus 38. He just looked awful. Lost, throwing the ball out of bounds. He had 10 points. Brown had 10 points and negative 28, 3 for 12 shooting. Negative 29 for Derek White. Negative 18 for Horford. Negative 20 for Hauser. It was actually 5 for 7 shooting and hit 4 threes for 14 points off the bench. But they only shot 30% overall from the field. 36% overall from the field, which is a real killer. Mavericks shot 50% from the field, 40% from 3. 5 other 15 threes, though, came from Hardaway Jr. in the fourth quarter. Worth noting there, he had 15. Irving and Doncic combined 1 for 14 from 3. Irving didn't even shoot any free throws. I think he shot his first free throws in Game 3, so he's not making it to the free throw line, and he's barely hitting any 3-pointers. 5 total on the series. Doncic, again, none in this game. So they're not even performing at max efficiency there. And again, killed him on the glass. 52-31, the final rebounding margin for the Mavericks. 13-4 on the offensive boards there as well. 14-9 was the turnover margin there. And 48 was the biggest lead at one point. So this could absolutely happen again on Monday night. Again, shoot better for Doncic and Kyrie from the perimeter. They can attack again. They're going to attack again in the paint. A lot still hinges on Kristaps Porzingis, so it's still going to be a big game on Monday night. The boys are back with Season 4. The first 3 episodes are loaded up there on Amazon Prime, so almost half of the season. I believe it's going to 8 episodes again. And it's been officially announced that the whole show will end after 5 seasons. I have not read the comic books to see how closely aligned as far as a conclusion that matches up, but so far the story has gone along with the comic book so far. But according to the showrunners, that's where they wanted to end the show. So I would expect that the comics came to an end right around that point as well. So last season, Season 3, we of course ended with Starlight as one of the boys after leaving her post as co-captain of the 7, and the failure there of her to kind of chip away at some of the power that Homelander has in that organization, of course. The Butcher is dying from the compound V that he's injected into himself. We know that now. Homelander, of course, kills the guy at the very end, laser beaming him after throwing a bottle or something at his son Ryan there at the protest. That was the big ending to the season that everyone was anticipating to see what happens here at the beginning of season 4. We had Victoria Newman, who overthrew her father for the top spot who held the top spot there at Vaughn after forming a kind of a partnership, an unstable partnership with Homelander. So we weren't quite sure where the Homelander and Newman standing was going to be here entering the 4th season after the Laser Eye death. So those are a couple of the key points there, besides everyone that had their own little side plots going on. So, spoiler alert, if you have not seen these first 3 episodes yet, these are my processing thoughts here. So we had Homelander, of course, starting to go gray, really dealing with his mortality in their first 3 episodes and kind of the place that Ryan will hold in his moving forward, which he claims is his kind of heir apparent. But of course, with his ego and his just outrageous narcissism, I suppose, to try and use the right adjective here, it's hard to believe that he really cares that strongly for his son, or at least his son's feelings and motivations, more so than a chess piece, as we see, of course, throughout these first 3 episodes. So Homelander certainly got his own issues there in dealing with his morality, and it certainly seems like he's, especially at the end of episode 3, which we'll get to in just a second, that it's going to kind of continue to push him over the edge further. Now, some of his shocking evil acts are still surprising, but seem to follow the comic books to my understanding, such as him asking Deep to interact with A-Train during the round table discussion there, their meeting with the 7, which he ultimately decides them not to perform on each other. And he, of course, gets very frustrated there and decides to talk to one of the recruits they're looking at as replacements on the 7, someone named Sister Sage, the smartest person in the world, because he's very frustrated that he has a bunch of yes men around him, and his scope worldview here is really changing and his place within it, and these folks around him with his morality and a son now. I shouldn't say morality, his thoughts and feelings in the world, getting older, his future, that kind of thing. And he's not appreciative of all these yes people around him. And it really seems to be confusing to all these folks, the 7 and just everyone around him that is trying to please him. Of course, he should know, after his many years of torturing these folks, that, of course, they're going to appease him however possible. So he's kind of made the bed that he's laid in, but of course he's not, going to take any responsibility for that. Just wondering how it's all going to play out. We're starting to see some folks kind of deal with a lot of emotional baggage everyone's dealing with in these episodes, more so than usual. Let's flip over to the Butcher real quick, since that's kind of the next plot point that was tackled in the episodes here. He told everyone that he was dying pretty early in the season. Wasn't sure if he was going to or not, but he started to show signs of shaking while he was taking a drink of water in front of Huey, and a couple other, he's a little volatile and throwing up during one of their missions. He did not tell them he's hallucinating, so seemingly hallucinating at this point, right? And seeing his dead wife. But they did see that he was, at least in one case, I think Frenchie saw him talking, to nobody. So we'll see what kind of impact that causes moving forward. He does want to save Ryan before he dies. It's key motivation now. Although, oddly enough, through another interaction here, the CIA has dispatched a former colleague of his that is now with the CIA. He goes by the name of Monkey in the comic books. His name, alias, is for a rather messed up reason. But Jeff Morgan plays Joe Kessler. That's his real name. And he's working with the Butcher. He's only in a few scenes through these first 3 episodes to either turn Ryan or to kill him. That's his goal, to try and get at Homelander. So he's Jeff Morgan's character, Joe. He's not referred to as Monkey in the episodes, I don't believe. Perhaps he will be in the future here. But he is with the CIA for now, as far as we know. That's the only person he's affiliated with and not double-crossing, but we'll see if that changes moving forward. And the Butcher, as much as he wanted to save Ryan, he invited him over for the one scene and was going to kill him, seemingly. But decided against it. Was going to feed him some, I believe it was poisoned cookies. Can't remember what substance was in it. But cookies that would have been fatal to Ryan. So saving him in one case meant death for the Butcher. But after a conversation, a very touching conversation, where Butcher realized that Ryan accidentally killed someone and then came to see him for real comfort, for real human feelings, for real feeling of morality, of right and wrong. I took someone's life. He didn't follow through on that plan. So of course that'll have ramifications moving forward. As to that death, Ryan is, being indoctrinated into, he's not the 7th member right now, but he's being pitched different costume ideas, name ideas, that kind of thing. And he's being auditioned. His first save is being planned out at a bank robbery, and then to save a hostage at the bank. But it's not real. People are going to see it and think it's real, but it's really planned out by the boys and by Vaughn, by Vaughn and by the 7. And it's supposed to be, originally, it's just supposed to be Ryan all by himself, saving the day, making a name for himself before he, starts to tackle real saves, real incidents. But as Vaughn is very controlling, they want to get the first one set up just perfect, so they work with a team of actors. And Ryan, with a little push from his father there, Homelander, actually kills someone with his strength. Doesn't really mean to, but puts a little bit more juice into one of his physical acts and kills a guy. And when Homelander expresses, of course, no sympathy for that, Ryan goes over to see the Butcher and is starting to have second thoughts about Homelander, which is really a lot of strength, I think. Everyone's in fear of Homelander. His son is rebellious, it seems like, but does not quite express the fear that other folks do, like he's, going to kill me. Just as in he's somewhat of a parental or adult figure. So that's an interesting view. As for right now, maybe he's not properly fearful of Homelander. He doesn't think Homelander would kill him. We'll see how that progresses, of course. So it's interesting to see those relationships. Just so much happens in an episode of this show. Very fast-paced. We have Starlight, of course, who prefers to go by Annie, her real name. She does have her followers, her Starlets, I believe they're called. I didn't jot that down. Starlets. And she doesn't really want to lead them, per se, or be a leader, but they do have folks that want to follow her and her leadership and her strength after standing up to Homelander and the 7 and Vaughn and doing it online, so public viewing. And it seems like Huey on the last episode there, episode 3, really convinces her to go back to using the Starlight name, simply because it resonates more with folks as a hero, even though she doesn't want to use the name, because for her it resonates with the horrible time she had with the 7. So the conflict there, very interesting. Of course, the Starlights set up the battle back and forth with the supporters for Homelander. A little surprising not to see him in some kind of conflict really initially in that first episode, but we hear that he is on trial for the murder, and then he's found not guilty, of course, and sets up the kind of fight between his supporters and the Starlight supporters. And it's interesting how they did that, and he's using this Sister Sage, a recruitment for one of the 7 spots, who is, of course, evil if you would use that. Seems to be have some other motivations probably under the surface that she's not revealing to everyone. But she's on a short list to replace some of the 7 members, and she's paid a personal visit by Mr. Homelander there to join the group. And he states that he wants to solicit her and would listen to her because she is the smartest person in the world. And she rightfully says that his ego would get in the way. Yet she joins, and they have some conflict throughout these first 3 episodes. But it's some of her plots that gets the Starlights in trouble. They, of course, have the Deep, A-Train, and Noir kill 3 of the biggest fans of Homelander, and then set it up to make it look like the Starlights murder them. And they don't use their superpowers, they use baseball bats, so the deaths can't be attributed to superpowers. And after they force a riot to break out and have these 3 dead bodies laying around, it of course looks like it was supporters of Starlight that got violent, and it's partially her fault that her supporters killed some Homelander supporters. This is after he's found not guilty of his crimes and was self-defending himself against the guy that he laser beamed to death at the end of season 3, who they were framing as a pedophile. Just horrible. The Boys material that we come to expect. And just very, very much, just a lot going on. A-Train, of course, starts to flip, change sides. And we get his arc of possibly, maybe we'll see him start to join the Boys at some point, delivering some important material to the group. We see Noir, who's talking a lot, because the original Noir is dead, so somebody else is taking his place there. We're not sure who it is, if it's just some stand-in, if he's really a hero or has powers at all, but it's some guy that actually does talk, and he talks way too much, so they're always yelling at him. The Deep has got his girlfriend Octopus in his closet, which is always a fun moment to have. Going back to the Boys, we have a Frenchie, Kimiko, Colin triangle. Colin being a former love interest of Frenchie, although when he was a hitman, he took out Colin's entire family. Colin doesn't know yet. Kimiko is trying to deal with her past, while seemingly interested in what Frenchie's got going on with Colin. We thought Frenchie and Kimiko were together, but they seem to not be really. So we've got that love triangle going on. We have Firecracker, who joined the 7 along with Sister Sage, who seems kind of like Jubilee from the X-Men, just creates kind of firework powers, little explosive powers, if that. Who has a very petty former child pageant grudge against Starlight. And we're not quite sure what her other motivations are. She was picked up at a funny con called Truth Con, which does have con in the name, and truth, which may not be truths, but is a conspiracy theorist playing off a lot of real life kind of tropes. And she was originally working in those first scenes, of course, with Chuck, who has a multiple man type power, like the X-Men X-Force multiple man, which was fun to see in a real life TV kind of setup and not just a cartoon. I'm not sure if DC had a similar character, but that was a very interesting thing to see. Now, Victoria Newman was in this, of course, from the very first episode, as we saw. They tried to kill her. She stayed alive. She had a very touching moment with Huey there, and those actor and actress are actually dating in real life. And she is very much trying to get into the presidency, campaigning with Robert Singer. She was trying to create distance from Homelander, despite the fact that she kind of turned on her father there last season to get him out of Vaught. Now she's creating space with him and the murder deal, and of course the fact that he's who he is. Now, Butcher also tells her that he knows about the Compound V virus that she's working on. Not the Compound V, the other cure that they've been, or whatever happened in the Gen V TV show to try and kill Homelander, that they're working on a different compound to try and kill him. So they're able to hook that TV show in as well. And he lets her know that he's aware of that, because of course he popped up in the final episode, breaking into that facility and checking out what was going on. So we've got a number of plot lines going out with her, between her Homelander relationship, between what she's cooking up to try and kill Homelander, the campaign, her relationship with Huey. We also have her daughter, who she injected with Compound V, who has tentacles coming out of her face and seems to have a little relationship with Ryan, possibly. They're around the same age, it seems like. So we got a lot going on with her character. And episode 3 finally ends with Homelander really failing to see. He fights with what seems like 4 different personalities. Now, we've seen him talking to himself before. We've seen him talking in the mirror to different psyches, per se. Not sure if he's just hallucinating, just talking to himself. But now you start to wonder, after he throws something at a mirror, cracks it, then he goes and he talks to the mirror. And he talks to his 4 selves that have splintered out. And you wonder if he is going to develop some kind of multiple personality out of this. And there is something real psychological starting to split up and go on there in his mind. But it ends with him talking to himself about how everyone dislikes him. Ryan dislikes him. He's unsure of what's going on and just really talking horribly about himself. And he said earlier, I think episode 1, that he's also just really bored and he's also getting old. So he's just very volatile, even more than normal right now. And it ends with him, his personality is kind of saying, you have to go back to the past. So it looks like we're going to journey back again to the facility where he was locked up and raised. So not thrilled to be doing that part again, but we seem to be doing a lot of backlogging, a lot of back work for a number of different characters in this season. So we had a lot of interesting stuff. We had the multiple man type guy. We had the Truth Con. We had the Mortal Kombat type game that Ryan was playing. I guess in the real Mortal Kombat right now, you can actually play as Homelander. So that is very interesting. Butcher, of course, who was going to kill Ryan. Of course, that's going to come up at some point. We had a Vaughn on Ice, which turned into a horrible situation, of course, there when they went to a practice session or doing other back room meetings, and it turned into a massacre, of course, by accidental consequence. And it seemed like in that last episode there, I was trying to figure out, so I had to go online and do a little digging, but Sage there, when she was talking to the Deep and about their second interaction, I think, one of the smartest and one of the dumbest people together, probably in the whole franchise. They had an elevator interaction earlier, and now we have one of the last interactions in the third episode there. I believe they had sex. That's certainly what was implied. And she was kind of strung out, or looked like she was on something, eating snacks. Asked the Deep if he wanted to watch Transformers. And you could see in the forefront that there was like a bloody something, a long bloody rod. And it was suggested that maybe she stabbed her own brain to kind of dumb herself down. I assume that's not permanent, but she's tired of dealing with this garbage for now. So we'll see about future ramifications of that. I was trying to figure that piece out watching the show. So we have a lot of plot lines going on, of course. We have a lot of our usual fucked up stuff between the violence, between the sexuality, between the Homelander fucked up stuff, between the deep fucking fish, and just all kinds of the mental manipulation. Just a lot here. So sometimes it's a very heavy show to watch, but it's also nonstop action. And it's just superpowers, of course, in a way that you don't see, in a way that it could possibly be if people abuse those powers, which it's hard to believe that someone wouldn't, at least in some capacity, if they had them, unfortunately. So I would say this picks right back up after season 3. I would say at some point, some of these really just kind of blend together. If you're ranking seasons, you know, I'm really glad we're over the Soldier Boy stuff at this point. A little bit too much Soldier Boy. It's hard to rank the seasons, I think, because the show for the most part kind of goes on pretty flawlessly. So I'd have to go back and kind of rank seasons, I think. But I think for the most part, this is a pretty flawless show as far as transitions. It always keeps you on your toes. If you've read the comic books, it seems to parallel it pretty well, so you're not seeing any surprises. There are few. The main different thing that I looked up was that the daughter of Newman, Victoria Newman, did not have the 4 tentacle things coming out of her face in the comic book. But that's a minor, at least right now, a minor detail. But for now, the show has picked up right where it's left off. I'm not excited to delve into everyone's past, but with only 5 episodes left already, I'm hoping we don't spend too much time, but we're able to knock out some important details into that. You know, whether it's Homelander, Frenchie, Kamiko, whether we do more firecracker, fire starter type stuff. I just hope that we don't have to spend too much time on that. Oh, last point. Huey's dad had a stroke, and his mom's back in the picture. I forgot that here. Right now, it's a nice relationship to have him. It took 2 episodes for him to kind of bond with his mom, who had postpartum depression. I have no idea what impact that's going to have moving forward, or if it's just kind of going to be like a sideline plot moving forward. So I hope we don't have to do, but again, that's kind of like reaching back in the past a bit. I just like to move forward with more of the relationship between the boys amongst each other, and some of the 7 amongst each other, and then the intermingling. And then you, of course, have Victoria Newman in there. So I don't want to do too much more past exploring personally, but I'm very excited for the rest of this season. So if you haven't checked it out and you listened to the last 20 minutes, you shouldn't have, but you should go check out The Boys. And I'm excited to watch the rest of the episodes this season with you. Thanks for tuning in. Again, Game 5 will be tonight, Monday night, and we will have more Boys coming this Wednesday, so that's exciting. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat with you later. All right, bye-bye.
Level up and watch that beat turn into a Bentley. See, I'm stunned, so all I'm thinking, please don't tell me.